Guy on the left, we're going to let you go first with the white hat. You're going to rock and roll first. I know you're picking a Big 12 team. So without further ado,
not a surprising Big 12 team.
Pause real
Big
quick.
12.
Going to the Big 12. I want to pause. All these over-under win totals are brought to you by Bet Online. All right, let's rock and roll with it.
Going to the Big 12, America's Conference, the UCF Knights. You see their win total there, over 7.5 wins. Let me just roll you through their schedule real quick. They open with New Hampshire and Sam Houston, so a couple layups. Then they go on the road to TCU week 3. Then they off a week, they host Colorado. Then they go to Florida October 5th. Now, you normally would think, oh, they're playing an SEC team, but they don't have a chance. And it's Florida. Florida season could be over by October 5th. We've talked ad nauseum about Florida's schedule, so we don't have to say too much about them. Then Cincinnati, they beat Cincinnati last year on the road. Both of those teams first year in the Big 12. I like that matchup. They have to go to Iowa State. That'll be a tricky game. Host BYU. November's kind of scary. For them. They host Arizona. Then they go to Arizona State. They go to West Virginia and host Utah. So I think their 2 toughest games of the season, Arizona and Utah, they get them at home. And their roster's in a much better spot. And we've seen Gus Malzahn do some really good things in November. So I heard him say it many times, you get remembered in November. So I think we'll be remembering UCF come the end of the year. You look at their transfers they brought in. Their 2 big ones, Penny Boone, running back coming in from Louisville, and the quarterback from Arkansas, KJ Jefferson. Now, I got some laughs from these 2 guys when I said this, when KJ Jefferson announced he was going to UCF, that he'll be a Heisman finalist in New York. I think he is the perfect quarterback for Gus Malzahn's offense, for what he wants to do, the way he likes to run the football, physical downhill running game. He's got a quarterback again that can do that. We saw him do it with Cam Newton, obviously, at Auburn. That's the best example. But KJ Jefferson actually threw the ball a lot better than I think people think he threw it at Arkansas. He was there for 5 years. He completed over 65% of his passes. It's a really good number in the SEC West, which is, probably the toughest division in college football. So now he goes to UCF, to the Big 12. Probably going to be a little bit – defenses are still good in the Big 12, but I think he should have similar, if not better, success. And while he was at Arkansas, he ran for over 1,600 yards and 17 touchdowns. You saw this offense last year. Some really good numbers. 4th in the country in third down conversion percentage, 4th in the nation rushing, 8th in total offense. I mean, that's Gus Malzahn's formula. And he had it working last year, and I think he's got a better roster. He's got a better quarterback, a better running back for it. And I think they'll do the same thing. They'll get in 3rd and short, and then KJ Jefferson, he'll just fall down and he'll get a first down for him. I've seen Gus Malzahn run that play thousands of times. The defense is a bit of a question mark, but they did really well in the portal. They went out and got Nigel Kelly from Miami, the edge. He'll start there. I mean, they get a lot of new bodies. They bring in Mac McWilliams from UAB, had a really good year last year at UAB at cornerback. Sheldon Arnold comes in to help at safety, as well as former Auburn Tiger Ladarius Tennyson made his way down to Orlando to play for Gus. So, I really like UCF. I really like their schedule. Obviously love Gus Malzahn. Love his offense. I think he's got the pieces here to really put it together. I think 7.5 wins, that it seems just like a gift. I mean, a gift to me from Vegas.
Yeah, so you look at the Big 12's over/under win total, and there's like 4 teams with it 7.5. Then there's like 7 or 8 teams that are within kind of this 7.5 to like 5 range. I mean, so as we know, the Big 12 is kind of this just gauntlet in terms of everyone's going to beat up on each other, and we'll see who the 2 teams are standing at the end of the season. So UCF has recruited very, very well. I believe they had the number 1 class in the Big 12 this past 2024 cycle. So they're starting to stack talent, and just in terms of who they're bringing in. UCF recruits the city of Atlanta very, very well. Gus does a really good job up there in Atlanta. You talked about a couple of transfers. They also bring in Vanderbilt linebacker Ethan Barr, Deshaun Pace, a kind of a combo linebacker safety out of Cincinnati, and then Ladarius Tennyson, who I believe you mentioned, there as well. And hey, Ted Roof is going to be in the building for this UCF team. So, the veteran play caller,
Hey, national champion. That's national champion defensive coordinator Ted Roof.
You know what? And we'll see if the marriage going back to that 2010 season is going to work here. But, Will, I mean, I was kind of looking at this and looking at some of the different previews. It really feels like the Big 12 is a conference, and Ralph, you can chime in here as well, but it really feels like the Big 12 conference is one of those where you just have to find a way to play a physical brand of football and survive. UCF's strength, according to a lot of the experts, is really kind of on that defensive line. You mentioned Nigel Kelly, they're returning two interior defensive linemen that a lot of people really like. So it feels like Gus Malzahn, what he does, he's the offensive guy. If that defense is good enough, why not UCF, playing in the Big 12 title game? I don't know. I think that's kind of I think that I don't think this is a bold claim to say they could go over 7.5 wins, but I was kind of surprised it was that low, and maybe it's just due to the perception of we don't really know what the Big 12 is going to look like in 2024.
Yeah, they are plus 750 to win the Big 12. Another number I like a lot. If I was going to put up some money, I like that number a lot. I think the Big 12 is kind of gettable. I mean, we know they've got strong teams. Like you said, you just kind of have to find a way to survive. Yeah. I really think the only team that you would argue could be dominant would be Utah. They don't get them till the end of the season. They get them at home. I think that things are playing into UCF's favor, I think, with their schedule and just what they have coming back. And, I'm with you. I was shocked when I saw it was set at 7.5.
And I think you did mention this one. Apologies if you did. Obviously, local guy to the Columbus area and kind of the surrounding Columbus area, Kobe Hudson. They're hoping he can emerge as that number one receiver in place of Javon Baker, that headed off to the NFL. So there's a lot of weapons. I don't think people are going to doubt what UCF can do offensively. It's more of, hey, there's a lot of pieces coming back defensively. You felt like you added to positions of need in the portal. Do those guys pan out combined with Ted Roof? Can you conjure up a little bit of that magic? Ralph, your thoughts on kind of what we've been talking about? And I know I alluded to earlier, just if the defensive line is a strength for UCF, that's big going into conference play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Will though. I like this UCF team. I like their move. They're in Big 12 the second year now. Gus Malzahn, obviously a fan favorite between Will and I. We've been on the Gus bus for a long time. I like what he's done down there in the portal this past year, and then what he does recruiting wise. I think he's just such an underrated recruiter. I mean, you got a lot of head coaches who go out there and recruit. Kirby, obviously, you think about when Saban was head coach, and you got a lot of assistant coaches that do such a great job. Gus does a terrific job. He really does. He interacts with these guys so much that he's able to pull them into bring them into Orlando and buy into his program and buy into the system. You go back to Auburn toward the end of Malzahn's career there. The offense got a little, lackluster and just kind of lost its mojo every game. At UCF, it didn't feel like that way. They feel like they're just excited every play, every game, and they go out there and play their best, and they ride behind them. So I like what UCF's got this year. Their schedule looks pretty favorable in their part. The Big 12 is kind of open now with Oklahoma and Texas departing. You bring in some different teams over Utah, obviously, but hey. Utah is coming off a kind of a rough year with no quarterback. They got their quarterback this year, but is he fully healthy to go, and play this year? Will he be the same? We don't know. UCF's got a good chance. I mean, 7.5 is a little low for me for them, honestly.
Yeah, I guess it's just a lot of this, and kind of we talked about earlier. It's just the depiction of, is the Big 12 going to just be this bloodbath where the conference champion's like a 9-3 team? Like, is that what it's going to be? Which could happen. And hey, that's last time. If my maths correctly. 9 wins is over 7.5. So, I think that, Will, when you look at that schedule, I know you were kind of alluding to this earlier, there's not too many games where you're like, hey, they don't have a chance. Could they lose them? Yeah, they could, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot of games on the schedule where you're like, they are going to be heavy underdogs heading into that matchup.
No, I don't see a single one. I mean, they play at home. The bounce house has turned into a true home field advantage down there. They get rocking down there in Orlando. So they're a fun team. And, I think the majority of their home games, they'll be favorites. They could be a small favorite, less than a touchdown, but I think they'll be favored. There's only a handful of games where I think they'd be underdogs. Iowa State might be one of them. They could be a home underdog to Utah. I mean, we really don't know what Utah is going to look like. They've got a 40-year-old playing quarterback out there. So, who knows what it's going to look like come November. But I like UCF. Like them a lot.
Yeah.
I said it when they hired Gus. He is going to get UCF over the hump and into the playoff. And even if it didn't expand to 12, I would still stand by that. And I would feel real confident in saying that they had a good chance this year to be in that top 4. But with 12, and, I think they can win the Big 12. You keep talking about that defensive line. You've got to have a good D-line in the Big 12 now. It's not the Big 12 of old. Teams aren't going to air it out. They're not throwing it around as much. They're playing physical run games across the conference. And, it looks good for UCF. I think UCF's a good matchup for just about every game they play.
Yeah, no, I like what you said there. That's kind of spot on. Ralph, any final thoughts here on UCF as we kind of move on to the next team?
No, I mean, I agree with Will. I was going to cut in before he started that comment, and I was going to say the bounce house is rocking, dude. If they get this like late Saturday night, sometimes those Friday night games, the bounce house is rocking.
And what about when Shador and Dion come to town September 28th?
We should go.
You talk about a clash of styles.
Yeah.
Gus and Dion could not be more opposite.
It's I'll be honest with you though, but it's low. And I will tell you this: you look at that schedule. You're going to play the top quarterbacks in this conference. Shador is one of them, whether you like it or not. The quarterback from Arizona, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Fafita. I don't know what it is. Fafita. He is really, really good. And really Arizona is going to come to town towards the end of the season. You start to kind of look Cam Rising, like you mentioned. Even West Virginia's Garrett Green. People are, high on him as a top 20
Garrett
quarterback.
Green's a fun quarterback to watch.
So, you're going to warm up with New Hampshire and Sam Houston, and then you're on the road at TCU and night kickoff on September 14th. UCF's going to be fun to watch this year. Can they get over the hump? Time will tell, but 7.5 wins will. I'm tempted to start best bets so early this year. Are you locking this one in? Do you want to say best bet for is kind of we'll do preseason. This is the spring training.
For a win total, absolutely. I would be shocked if they don't get to 8 wins.
Right.
And Gus Malzahn, he's Mr. 8-4. So I mean, this is
putting the bet in now, right now.
it's on a tee for me here.